The night was loud, restless, and wild. Inside the tavern, the air smelled of smoke, spilled drinks, and roasted meat. The ceiling shook every few minutes from laughter, fights, or broken glass. The old wooden tables were full of humans and aliens, all shouting over each other. It was not just a place to eat and drink. It was a place where outcasts, mercenaries, and travelers from across the galaxy gathered to forget their pain, at least for one night. Among the chaos moved a young human waiter. His name was Daniel. He wore a plain shirt, dark trousers, and a tired look on his face. Every step he took carried both speed and caution. He carried trays of steaming bowls, mugs of strange glowing liquids, and sometimes entire roasted animals. He had to dodge tails, tentacles, and arms as he passed through the crowd. If he was too slow, someone would shout at him. If he spilled a drink, someone might punch him. He had learned long ago how to move like a shadow, unnoticed until needed. Daniel had no family nearby and no real friends. He worked in the tavern because he needed money to survive. For him, every night was the same. Carry food, clean tables, take insults, stay alive. But tonight was different. Tonight, something would happen that would change his life forever. At one corner of the tavern, an alien girl sat alone. Her skin had a soft glow, faintly violet under the dim lights. Her long silver hair flowed over her shoulders like a river of light. Her eyes, usually bright and sharp, were heavy and cloudy tonight. She was drunk. Empty glasses surrounded her, and yet she asked for more. She laughed too loud, then cried, then laughed again. Most people ignored her, though some glanced with curiosity. Daniel noticed her too. He had seen many drunk customers before, both human and alien, but something about her was different. She looked young, yet her aura carried a strange power. He could not explain it, but he felt that she did not belong in this place. He shook the thought away. His job was not to wonder. His job was to serve. Another drink, the girl slurred, slamming her empty glass on the table. Her voice was strong but unsteady. Daniel sighed quietly, picked up her glass, and refilled it from a container behind the counter. He placed it gently in front of her. "Here you go," he said softly. She lifted it, but her grip was weak. The liquid spilled down her chin as she drank. She laughed again, her silver hair sticking to her face. Daniel turned to leave, but suddenly she grabbed his wrist. "You," she said, her glowing eyes struggling to focus. "Stay." Daniel froze. His first thought was trouble. A drunk customer could mean danger. Slowly, he tried to pull his hand away, but her grip tightened. She stood up unsteadily, her body swaying like a tree in the wind. The tavern grew quieter as people turned to watch. Daniel felt the heat of dozens of eyes on him. He wanted to step back, but before he could, the alien girl reached out with both hands. With one sudden motion, she ripped his shirt open down the middle. The sound of tearing cloth cut through the tavern's noise. Gasps followed. Some laughed, some whistled, others waited to see a fight. Daniel's face burned with shock and embarrassment. He clutched at his shirt, trying to cover himself, but then something strange happened. The alien girl stopped laughing. Her glowing eyes widened in horror. Her drunken haze seemed to vanish in an instant. Her lips parted, but no words came out at first. She stared at his chest as if she had seen a ghost. There, beneath the torn shirt, was not just bare skin. A faint light pulsed across Daniel's chest, a mark. It was like a tattoo, but alive. The lines twisted in shapes that looked older than language itself. They glowed softly, hidden most of the time, but now revealed to everyone. Daniel froze. He did not understand it. The mark had always been there since he was a child. He never knew what it meant. He thought it was just some strange birthmark, nothing more. But the alien girl knew. Her trembling hand reached forward, stopping just short of touching the glowing lines. Her voice shook when she finally spoke. "No, it cannot be," she whispered. This is the mark of the forbidden." The entire tavern was silent now. Even the rowdiest aliens stopped drinking. Everyone stared at Daniel, the ordinary human waiter who suddenly was not ordinary at all. Daniel's heart raced. Fear crawled into his chest. Why was she so scared? Why did her words sound like a curse? He opened his mouth to ask, but the girl's grip on him only tightened. Her violet glow pulsed brighter, and her eyes filled with dread. "You don't understand," she said, her voice rising. "They will come for you. They will never let you live." Daniel's breath caught. The crowd whispered around him. His life, which had always been quiet and hidden in the corners of the tavern, had just exploded into chaos. And in that moment, he realized nothing would ever be the same again. The tavern stayed silent for a heartbeat. The sound of laughter, fights, and clinking glasses had all died away. Dozens of eyes were fixed on one spot, the human waiter with his shirt ripped open and the alien girl holding his wrist. Daniel stood frozen, chest exposed, the strange glowing mark pulsing faintly like a hidden heartbeat. His breath was uneven and his mind was racing. He wanted to cover himself, to pull away, to pretend nothing had happened. But the alien girl's wide eyes and trembling voice told him that something much bigger had just begun. Her words still echoed, "They will come for you." Daniel swallowed hard. "What are you talking about?" he whispered, his voice nearly lost in the heavy silence. The alien girl staggered back half a step, but her gaze never left his chest. Her hand shook as she pointed toward the glowing mark. "That symbol, I have only seen it in forbidden records. Old texts hidden away from the common people. They say it belongs to the chosen of the flame." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some aliens leaned forward with curiosity, others with fear. A few even stood up, chairs scraping loudly against the floor. Daniel's stomach twisted. He had no idea what she meant. To him, the mark had always been a mystery, something strange he hid under clothing. Now, in front of everyone, it felt like a curse. The tavern's owner, a tall and scarred alien with 4 arms, slammed one fist against the bar. "Sit down," he barked at the onlookers. His eyes, however, stayed locked on Daniel. Even the owner seemed uneasy. The alien girl's drunken state seemed to vanish completely. Her violet glow flickered faintly, and her silver hair stuck to her damp face. She was no longer laughing. Instead, her voice was sharp and urgent. "Do you not understand? That mark is dangerous. It means you are part of a story that should have ended long ago." Daniel clenched his fists. "I don't know what you're talking about. It's just a birthmark. That's all." But even as he said it, he didn't believe himself. Deep inside, he knew there was more. He remembered faint flashes from his childhood, waking up from nightmares where the mark burned like fire, hearing whispers in dreams he could not explain. The girl shook her head violently. "No, that is no birthmark. That is the sign of rebellion, the sign of prophecy." The word prophecy spread through the tavern like a spark on dry wood. Aliens muttered to each other in low, uneasy tones. Some glanced toward the doors as if expecting someone or something to arrive at any moment. Daniel felt sweat run down his back. He took a shaky step backward, but the alien girl caught his arm again. Her grip was desperate this time, almost painful. "Listen to me," she whispered fiercely. "When they see this, they will not stop. They will chase you, hunt you, until you are gone. And if you stay here, everyone in this tavern will suffer for it." Daniel's eyes darted around the room. Some customers were already leaving quietly, slipping through the shadows toward the exit. Others stayed, but with nervous eyes fixed on him. The tension was so thick it felt like a storm waiting to break. He tried to steady his voice. "Who are they? Who will come for me?" The girl looked around, lowering her voice even more. "The enforcers. The rulers. The ones who fear what your kind can become." Her voice shook as she spoke the next words. Humans were never meant to carry that mark. And yet here you are. Daniel felt the weight of her words crash down on him. He was just a waiter, a nobody. He worked to survive, not to fight wars or fulfill prophecies. Yet now every eye in the tavern saw him as something else, something dangerous. Before he could reply, the tavern door slammed open. The heavy metal creaked and cold night air swept inside. 3 armored figures stepped in. They were tall, broad, and carried weapons that glowed faintly at the edges. Their faces were hidden under helmets, but their presence filled the room with fear. The alien girl's grip on Daniel tightened. "Too late," she whispered. The armored figures scanned the crowd. Their leader spoke, his voice cold and metallic. "We are searching for someone. A human male. Bring him forward and no one will be harmed." No one moved. The silence grew heavier. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. The mark on his skin seemed to glow brighter, as if responding to danger. He tried to cover it with his torn shirt, but it was too late. The alien girl pressed closer to him, shielding him with her small frame. One of the armored soldiers noticed the movement. His helmet tilted and his hand rose, pointing directly at Daniel. "There, that one!" The room exploded into chaos. Some customers screamed and ran. Others ducked under tables. The tavern owner shouted for calm, but his voice was drowned by the sudden crash of tables overturning. The soldiers moved forward, their weapons humming with energy. Daniel felt panic clawed his chest. He wanted to run, but his legs felt heavy. The alien girl looked up at him, her violet eyes fierce now, no longer clouded by drink. "If you want to live, follow me." And before he could think, she pulled him toward a side door, away from the armored soldiers who were closing in. The tavern was no longer just loud. It had become a battlefield. The night air outside the tavern was cold and sharp. Daniel stumbled as the alien girl pulled him through a narrow passage between metal walls. Behind them, the noise of shouting soldiers and panicked customers echoed like thunder. Boots pounded, chairs broke, and weapons hummed. But Daniel had no time to look back. His only thought was to keep moving. The girl's grip was firm, surprising for someone who had been drunk minutes ago. She pulled him into a side alley where shadows swallowed them whole. Daniel's lungs burned and his chest heaved, but he forced himself to keep pace. When they finally stopped, Daniel leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. What is happening? Who are they? Why are they after me?" The girl turned to face him, her silver hair shining faintly in the dim streetlight. Her eyes were still wide with urgency, but her voice had softened. "Because of this." She pointed at his chest where the torn shirt barely covered the glowing mark. Daniel instinctively pressed his hand over it. The lines pulsed faintly beneath his skin, alive like they were breathing with him. "This thing? It's just some mark. I was born with it. I don't even know what it means." She stepped closer, her voice low but intense. "That is no ordinary mark. It is a sigil, an ancient one. My people call it the Flame's legacy. Long ago, it was the sign of leaders who rose against the rulers of the galaxy. It is forbidden, erased from records but not forgotten. Anyone who carries it is hunted." Daniel's stomach turned cold. "But I'm not a leader. I'm not anyone important. I'm just a waiter." The girl shook her head. "The mark does not care what you believe you are. It chooses. It burns itself into the flesh of those it claims. And you?" Her eyes scanned him with something between fear and awe. "You are claimed." Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. He remembered nights as a child when the mark glowed faintly in the dark, warming his skin. He had hidden it under layers of clothes, ashamed and confused. His parents never explained it, only told him never to show anyone. They had died before he could ask why. Now the truth, or at least part of it, stood in front of him. He shook his head, refusing to accept it. "If what you say is true, then why me? Why not someone stronger, smarter, someone who can actually fight?" Her voice hardened. "Because prophecy does not ask for permission." Before Daniel could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed down the alley. The soldiers were closing in, their armor clanking against the stone. The girl grabbed his arm again, pulling him deeper into the maze of streets. They ducked under hanging wires, leaped over broken crates, and slipped through narrow gaps only locals knew. The city around them was alive with neon lights and floating drones, but to Daniel it felt like a trap closing in. Every corner carried danger. Finally, they slid into an abandoned warehouse, its roof half collapsed, its floor covered in dust and scraps of old machinery. The girl shut the door behind them and pressed her back against it, listening for pursuit. The silence stretched, broken only by their heavy breathing. Daniel finally spoke. "You still haven't told me your name?" The girl looked at him for a long moment before replying. "Lyra." "All right, Lyra," Daniel said, his voice trembling with frustration. "You seem to know a lot more than me. So tell me, what exactly does this mark want from me?" Her expression softened, but her words carried weight. "The mark is a key. It is not only a sign of prophecy, it unlocks power. Power that humans were never supposed to hold. That is why the rulers fear it. Because if you learn to use it, if others see it, the galaxy could change." Daniel laughed bitterly, though it sounded more like a choke. "Change the galaxy? I can't even change my own life. I serve drinks and clean floors. That's it." Lyra stepped closer, her violet glow brushing against him like moonlight. "And yet, even hidden in the darkest place, fire can spread. You don't see it now, but they do. That is why they will not stop chasing you." Daniel felt the weight of her words pressing down on him. He wanted to deny it, to run from it. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that she was right. He had always felt different. Now he knew why. Before he could say more, the warehouse walls vibrated with a low hum. Lyra stiffened. "They found us." A beam of light cut through the cracks in the roof as a drone hovered above. Daniel's chest burned as the mark glowed brighter, responding to the danger. Lyra's eyes widened. It's awakening. Daniel clutched his chest, panic rising. What's happening to me? The glow spread across his skin, veins of light crawling outward from the mark. Heat surged through his body, not painful but powerful, like fire flowing in his blood. He staggered back, his breath short, his eyes wide with fear. Lyra stared at him with awe and dread. The flame has chosen you fully. Now there is no turning back. The warehouse door creaked, shadows moving outside. The soldiers were seconds away from breaking in. Daniel's body shook with the burning energy. For the first time in his life, he felt something inside him awaken, and in that moment he realized, whether he wanted it or not, his life was no longer his own. The warehouse trembled as heavy footsteps echoed outside. Dust fell from the cracked ceiling, and the faint glow of Daniel's mark lit the dim room like a hidden lantern. His breathing was fast, his chest burning as if fire itself lived beneath his skin. Lyra pressed her back against the door, her violet eyes sharp with fear. We don't have much time. Listen carefully. Daniel held his torn shirt closed with one hand and pressed the other against the glowing mark. I don't understand what's happening to me. This fire, I can't control it. You will learn, Lyra said, her voice calm but urgent. But first you must understand why they want you dead. Daniel's throat was dry. Then tell me. No more riddles. Lyra glanced at the trembling door, then back at him. Long ago, before your people ever spread to the stars, there was a war. A war between rulers and rebels. The rulers were powerful alien houses united under the enforcers. The rebels were ordinary beings, slaves, workers, and outcasts, who dreamed of freedom. And at the heart of that rebellion was the flame's legacy. Daniel's eyes narrowed. The mark, yes, Lyra whispered. It appeared on chosen ones. Humans, aliens, sometimes even hybrids. Each bearer carried strength beyond imagination. The mark allowed them to resist control, to spark hope in others. That is why the rebellion grew strong. But the rulers feared it. They crushed the uprising and hunted down every marked one. They erased history, destroyed records, and declared the symbol forbidden. Daniel's stomach twisted. And now I'm carrying it, but why? I never asked for this. The flame does not ask, Lyra said softly. It chooses. And it chose you. Daniel shook his head. But I'm not a fighter. I don't want to be part of any war. Her gaze hardened. You don't have a choice. The moment your shirt was torn, your life as a simple waiter ended. They saw you. And once the enforcers see, they never forget. The pounding outside grew louder. A metallic voice boomed, Open the door. By order of the High Council, surrender the market human. Daniel's blood froze. His knees felt weak, but the burning in his chest grew stronger. The mark pulsed faster, brighter, as if answering the threat. Lyra grabbed his arm. Do not give in to fear. The mark feeds on your will. If you panic, it will burn you from the inside. But if you stand firm, it will protect you. Daniel swallowed hard. His mind screamed to run, to hide, to disappear. But deep inside, something else stirred. Something fierce. The warehouse door shook violently as the enforcers tried to break it down. Lyra pulled Daniel toward the back where rusted stairs led to a collapsed balcony. There's another way out. We have to move. They climbed quickly, their footsteps echoing. Daniel's chest flared with heat. Every pulse of the mark sending waves of energy through his veins. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. From below, the door finally gave way with a metallic crash. 3 armored enforcers stormed in, weapons glowing. Their visors scanned the dark, locking onto the faint light from Daniel's chest. There he is, one of them growled. Do not let him escape. Bolts of blue energy shot upward, striking the balcony. Metal groaned and splintered. Daniel and Lyra ducked, shards raining down around them. Daniel's panic burst out. We can't outrun them. Lyra grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at her. Then you must fight. I can't. Daniel shouted, his hands trembling. I don't even know how. She held his gaze firmly. Well, the mark is not just a curse. It is a weapon. Trust it. Let it guide you. Another blast struck the wall behind them, shaking the whole structure. Daniel's heart pounded, his fear clashing with the strange fire inside him. He raised his hand without thinking, and the mark's glow spread across his arm. A surge of energy burst outward, forming a shield of light in front of them. The next blast from the enforcers struck the shield and scattered into sparks. Daniel stared in disbelief. I did that? Lyra's eyes widened with relief. Yes, the flame answered you. Now do it again. The enforcers roared and advanced, their boots crushing debris. Daniel raised his hand again, this time with more focus. The mark burned hotter, brighter. Another wave of energy shot out, slamming into the ground in front of the soldiers. The impact threw them back, armor screeching against the floor. Daniel staggered, his body shaking from the effort. The shield flickered, then faded. His vision blurred, and he dropped to one knee. I can't hold it for long. Lyra knelt beside him, steadying him. You don't need to. You only need enough to escape. She pointed toward a broken window high above. That's our way out. Daniel clenched his teeth, forcing his tired body to move. Together, they climbed the twisted metal beams toward the window as the soldiers recovered below. Energy blasts whizzed past, striking the walls and floor. At the top, Daniel pushed the broken glass aside, the night air rushing in. Lyra climbed through first, then reached back for him. Hurry! As Daniel pulled himself through, one soldier fired directly at his back. For a split second, time slowed. The mark blazed across his body and instinct took over. He thrust his hand backward, releasing another burst of firelight. The blast knocked the soldier flat, leaving scorch marks on the floor. Daniel collapsed outside, gasping. Lyra dragged him to his feet, and together they stumbled into the shadows of the city. Behind them, the warehouse shook with the enforcers' furious shouts. But for now, they had escaped. Daniel leaned against a wall, sweat pouring down his face. His voice was shaky. I don't understand any of this. I don't want this power. I just want my old life back. Lyra looked at him with steady eyes. Your old life is gone. The mark has revealed itself. And now the galaxy will never let you rest. You must choose to run forever or to rise. Daniel stared at his glowing chest, his heart torn between fear and defiance. He didn't know what choice he would make. But one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same. The city outside the warehouse was alive with chaos. Neon signs flickered across cracked walls, floating vehicles rushed by overhead, and shadows stretched long across the narrow streets. Daniel and Lyra stumbled into an alley, their breaths heavy, hearts racing. Daniel's chest still glowed faintly, the strange mark burning like fire beneath his skin. He pressed his palm over it, trying to hide the light. They're not going to stop, he whispered, panic in his voice. Lyra scanned the skies, her silver hair whipping in the night wind. No, they've already called reinforcements. The enforcers won't rest until you're in chains or dead. Daniel clenched his fists. Then what are we supposed to do? Keep running forever? Before Lyra could answer, a piercing siren cut through the air. Blue lights flashed as sleek armored transports descended into the streets. Drones swarmed above, scanning alleys with red beams. From every direction came the sound of boots, soldiers closing in. Lyra grabbed his arm, pulling him deeper into the twisting passages. We move. Now. They sprinted, weaving between vendors' stalls and crumbling stone arches. The streets, once crowded with late-night drinkers, were now clearing fast as civilians fled from the approaching storm. Shutters slammed shut, lights turned off, and silence fell over the district, leaving only the hunters and the hunted. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed from a drone above. Marked human. Surrender immediately. Resistance will mean death. Daniel felt his stomach knot. Every instinct told him to hide, but the heat in his chest grew hotter, almost alive. His breathing grew uneven as the mark pulsed with each heartbeat. Why does it feel like this? He gasped. Like it's pushing me to fight? Lyra's voice was sharp but steady. Because it knows you're in danger. The flame wants you to survive. Daniel shook his head, panic flooding him. But if I fight, they'll kill me. They'll kill you if you don't, she shot back. They turned a corner only to skid to a halt. Ahead, 5 enforcers blocked the path, weapons raised. Their armored suits gleamed under the neon glow, visors reflecting Daniel's faint light. Target acquired, one soldier announced. Lyra cursed under her breath. Too many. Before Daniel could react, the soldiers opened fire. Blasts of searing blue light streaked through the alley. Instinctively, Daniel raised his hand. The mark flared and a shimmering shield burst into life, absorbing the first volley. Sparks scattered across the walls. The force of the blasts pushed Daniel back, his arms trembling. The shield flickered as sweat poured down his face. I can't hold it. Then don't hold it, release it, Lyra shouted. Daniel gritted his teeth. The burning in his chest reached its peak, and with a desperate cry he pushed forward. The shield shattered, not into weakness but into raw energy. A wave of fire-like light surged outward, slamming into the soldiers. The blast sent them flying into the walls, their weapons scattering across the ground. The alley shook from the impact. Smoke filled the air. Daniel staggered, barely able to stand. His body ached and his vision swam, but the enforcers were down. He stared at his glowing hands in disbelief. I did that? Lyra pulled him forward. Yes, and next time you'll do more. But we need to go, now. They ran past the fallen soldiers deeper into the city, but the attack had not gone unnoticed. Across the skyline, dozens of drones turned toward their location. Red beams focused in, alarms howled, and more transports descended like vultures. Daniel's legs felt heavy, his lungs burning. We can't keep running. They'll catch us. Lyra glanced at him, her face pale but determined. There's a safe house nearby. If we can reach it, you'll have time to recover. But the safe house was still blocks away, and the enforcers were already surrounding the district. As they raced across a narrow bridge, Daniel heard the whine of engines. A transport ship swooped down, blocking their path. Its floodlights blinded them, and a dozen soldiers jumped out, weapons charged. End of the line, their commander barked. Daniel's chest flared again, but this time it wasn't only heat, it was pain. He doubled over, gasping. The mark burned brighter, too bright, as if it was trying to tear itself free. Lyra caught him, her eyes wide. It's overloading. You're pushing too hard. Daniel clenched his teeth, fighting through the agony. Then what do I do? Control it! She cried. The flame listens to your will. If you give in to fear, it consumes you. If you focus, it becomes your weapon. The soldiers advanced, their footsteps in unison. Daniel's vision blurred, but through the haze he saw their weapons glowing, ready to fire. He forced himself to stand straight. He clenched his fists, closed his eyes, and focused on one thought: survive. The mark answered. A roar of light burst from his body, engulfing the bridge in flames of pure energy. Soldiers screamed as the shockwave sent them tumbling into the river below. The transport ship rocked violently, its engines sputtering from the blast. When the light faded, Daniel fell to his knees, exhausted. The bridge was cracked and smoking. Bodies of stunned soldiers floated in the dark water. Lyra knelt beside him, supporting his weight. You see now? You are more than a waiter. The flame chose you for a reason. Daniel looked at her with tired eyes. I don't want this reason. Her voice softened. You may not want it, but you are it. And if you don't accept it soon, the galaxy will burn around you. The sound of distant sirens grew louder. More ships were coming. The hunt was only beginning. Daniel stared at the glowing mark on his chest. For the first time, he wasn't only afraid. He was angry, and anger mixed with fire was a dangerous thing. Smoke rose from the broken bridge, drifting into the night sky. Daniel leaned heavily on Lyra's shoulder, his body trembling from the power he had unleashed. His chest still glowed, faint pulses flickering like embers under his skin. Every breath burned, but his eyes carried a fire that had not been there before. We can't stay, Lyra said, her voice urgent. The enforcers will regroup. More are already on the way, Daniel groaned. I don't know how much farther I can go. You'll make it, she replied firmly. Because you have to. They slipped into a side street, moving quickly through the shadows. Above them, drones circled, scanning with red beams. Daniel tried to keep his mark hidden, pulling his torn shirt tighter, but he could feel its heat seeping through the fabric. The city was alive with whispers. People peeked from windows and alley corners, watching the chase. Some looked frightened, others curious. A few even bowed their heads as Daniel passed, as if recognizing something he didn't yet understand. Finally, Lyra led him to a narrow stairwell that descended into darkness. The walls were damp and the air smelled of rust and old metal. At the bottom was a heavy door, nearly invisible in the shadows. She pressed her hand against a panel and with a soft click it opened. Inside, she whispered. Daniel stepped through, and the world changed. The safe house was a hidden chamber, built from old machinery and glowing lanterns. Maps covered the walls and shelves were stacked with supplies. A small fire burned in a metal drum, giving off faint warmth. It felt secret, hidden from the galaxy above. Daniel sank onto a crate, his body finally giving in to exhaustion. He buried his face in his hands. I don't understand any of this. I was just a waiter. I never wanted to fight anyone. Lyra crouched in front of him, her violet glow gentle in the dim light. And yet here you are, still alive after facing the enforcers. That alone proves you are not ordinary. Daniel shook his head. I almost died out there. If not for this, thing. He tapped his chest. I'd be dead already. This thing, Lyra said softly, is the flame's legacy. It is not a curse. It is a gift. But it demands strength, and it will test you. The more you run from it, the harder it will burn. Daniel looked up, his eyes tired but searching. Why are you helping me? You could have left me back at the tavern. Why risk your life? For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Lyra spoke, her voice low and steady. Because I know what it means to be hunted. I know what it means to be powerless. When I saw that mark, I knew, if I don't help you, the galaxy loses its last chance. Her words hit him harder than any blast. He searched her face, looking for doubt, but found only determination. Before he could reply, a sharp knock echoed against the safe house door. Daniel stiffened, his body tense. They found us, he whispered. Lyra motioned for silence. She approached the door cautiously, hand on the hidden panel. A coded rhythm tapped against the metal. 3 knocks, a pause, then 2 more. Lyra exhaled with relief. It's an ally. She opened the door slightly and a cloaked figure slipped inside. The newcomer pulled back their hood, revealing a weathered human face. His eyes were sharp, his jaw strong, but his clothes were patched and worn. Name's Kale, the man said, his voice rough. I saw what happened on the bridge. Whole sectors talking about the human with the fire mark. You've stirred the hornet's nest? Daniel frowned. So the whole city knows? Kale nodded grimly. Not just the city. Word spreads fast. By dawn, every enforcer patrol will be hunting you. And the council. They'll want you dead before hope spreads. Daniel's heart sank. He had never wanted fame, never wanted to be noticed. Now he was a target painted across the stars. Kale studied him for a long moment. But maybe that's exactly what we need. People are afraid. They've lived under the council's boot for too long. If they see a marked human stand against the enforcers and live. He leaned closer. They'll start to believe again. Daniel shook his head, frustration boiling. I'm not a symbol. I'm not a hero. I don't even know how I survived out there. Lyra's voice cut through his doubt. You survived because the flame chose you. And now others are watching. Whether you accept it or not, you have become more than yourself. Daniel looked between them. Lyra's steady eyes, Kale's sharp determination. He wanted to scream that they were wrong, that he was just a man who wanted peace, but deep inside he knew the truth. The mark was alive and it had changed everything. He sighed, rubbing his temples. If I stay here, I'll put all of you in danger. The enforcers will burn this place down just to get me. Kale smirked faintly. Let them try. We've been hiding from them for years. But with you, his expression grew serious again. With you, maybe we can do more than hide. Daniel felt the fire in his chest stir again. This time it wasn't panic or pain, it was something else. Something like resolve. Outside, the sirens grew louder. Searchlights swept across the rooftops. The hunt had not ended. Daniel stood slowly, his legs still weak but his voice steady. If they're coming, then we can't just sit here. Tell me what I have to do. Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. First, you learn to control the fire. Then you decide how to use it. The 3 of them listened as the rumble of enforcer transports drew closer. The safe house shook lightly under the weight of the search above. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel only fear. He felt the beginning of something else, something dangerous but necessary. Hope. The safe house walls rattled as enforcer transports rumbled above the city. Searchlights painted streaks across cracked windows, and the faint buzz of drones filled the night. Daniel stood in the dim glow of the fire drum, his torn shirt hanging loose, the mark on his chest pulsing like a heartbeat. Kyle studied him from the shadows, arms crossed. They won't stop, he said grimly. The council will pour everything into catching you. But that also means something has changed. For the first time in years, they're afraid. Daniel looked down at the glowing lines etched into his skin. Afraid of me? Afraid of what you represent, Kale corrected. A human carrying the flame's legacy. If people believe in you, the council's grip begins to slip. Daniel shook his head. I didn't ask for this. I don't want to be anyone's symbol. Lyra stepped forward, her violet glow soft against the firelight. Neither did those before you. Yet history remembers them. Do you know why? Daniel's voice was quiet. Because they fought. Lyra nodded. Because they didn't run forever. Because they gave others hope. You can do the same. Outside, the pounding of boots echoed faintly. Soldiers moving through nearby streets. Daniel's chest burned hotter, responding to the danger. He clenched his fists, trying to steady his breath. Cale pulled a small device from his cloak, a communicator old and scarred. He activated it, and a faint, static-filled voice answered. Safe House 3, report. Cale's voice was calm but firm. We have him. The marked one. He's alive. The line went silent for a moment, then the voice returned, trembling with excitement. Then it's true. The flame has returned. Daniel's stomach twisted. He turned to Cale. You told them? They needed to know, Cale said simply. Word will spread. By tomorrow, the underground will know there's a marked human walking free, and by next week, whispers will reach every colony. You can't hide anymore, Daniel. You can only choose what you do with it. Daniel paced the room, frustration boiling. But if they know, the enforcers will know too. Won't that put everyone in danger? Cale's eyes hardened. Danger is already here. You've seen it. They'd burn whole districts to catch you. At least now people have a reason to fight back. The fire inside Daniel's chest pulsed again, stronger this time. He felt the weight of their words pressing down on him. The safe house felt smaller, tighter, like the walls themselves were closing in. Lyra reached out, placing a hand gently on his arm. You're not alone anymore. That's the difference. If you fight, you won't be fighting by yourself. Others will stand with you. Daniel met her eyes. For a moment he saw not just fear or urgency, but hope, something fragile but real. The silence broke with a sudden explosion outside. The ground shook, dust raining from the ceiling. Sirens blared and a metallic voice boomed through a loudspeaker. Surrender the marked human or face destruction. Cale cursed under his breath. They found us faster than I thought. He grabbed a rifle from the wall, checking the charge. We can't hold them here. Too many. Daniel felt his chest burning hotter, brighter. His fear warred with something new, anger. Anger at being hunted. Anger at losing his quiet life. Anger at the council that wanted him dead for something he never chose. He stood straighter, his fists clenched. Then we don't wait for them to break in. We move first. Kyle gave him a sharp look. You're barely standing. You think you can fight again? Daniel's voice was steady. I don't know, but I'm not running anymore. The mark flared across his chest, spilling light into the safe house. Lyra stepped back, shielding her eyes. The energy hummed in the air, alive and powerful. Outside, enforcers gathered at the entrance, weapons charged. The heavy door groaned under their pounding. Daniel closed his eyes, focusing on one thought. Protect them. The mark answered. A surge of firelight erupted from his body, flowing outward like a living shield. It spread across the walls, sealing cracks, reinforcing the safe house against the soldiers outside. The pounding stopped for a moment, replaced by confused shouts. Lyra stared in awe. You're learning faster than I expected. Daniel opened his eyes, glowing faintly with the same fire. I don't want this power, but I can't deny it anymore. If they want to fight, then I'll give them one. Not for me, for everyone they've crushed under their boots. Cale's mouth curved into the faintest grin. Then maybe you are the one we've been waiting for. The safe house shook again as another explosion rocked the street. The enforcers were preparing to breach with heavier weapons. Daniel looked at Lyra and Cale. If I do this, if I fight, then I'll need help. I can't carry this alone, Lyra nodded. You won't. Wherever you go, I'll follow. Kyle loaded his rifle. And so will those who still believe in freedom. You'll see. For the first time, Daniel felt something stronger than fear in his chest. The mark's fire no longer felt like a curse. It felt like a choice. As the enforcers prepared to storm the safe house, Daniel stood tall, his chest glowing like a beacon in the dark. The sound of boots and weapons filled the night. But inside, a new fire had been lit, one that would not be easily extinguished. It was no longer just about survival. It was the beginning of something greater.